It's still spinning. Okay, there we go. Gosh, that took a while. Okay, I'm leaving that chat box open. So I'll wait before I was almost done. I was almost done with the topic, though I still have other things I want to talk about. So hopefully I don't get cut off again. But hi, Michelle. I'm glad you're here. Back upstream. The reboot. I don't have my little clacker thing. So take 2. I should have brought it over here. Darn it. Let's see. I was stalked. So let's see. I don't know if Deb or anyone's still in here. If a moderator can also post the link in this chat, that would be cool. I don't know if you can now that I'm not on there anymore, but I'm leaving that chat open right now. So okay. Yeah, don't forget the likes. So what was I saying? So let me finish it's just that last little bit. So how often you treat your wood products is all dependent on how often you use them and how. So I'm repeating some of the stuff because I don't know how much got cut off. So the kitchen board, I treat after every use, whereas like my cheese board, the board I use for cutting the bread on, even the tampers, some of that stuff, I'm only going to treat when I feel like I need it. Now whenever I use it to mash grapes with, and then I wash it up, I definitely do put a good coating on that because it's commonly used with wet things, where this is sometimes used for wet things and a lot of times used for dry things. So it's not something I need to treat all the time because I'm not always having to scrub it down. I might just rinse it off or something. And same thing with knives. Not a lot of the things, even this, I don't treat every time, but I try to remember to. But a lot of times things that you're holding in your hand also kind of get a little bit of a treatment from the oils in your hand. But if it's something you're throwing in the sink and washing, and I don't recommend putting a lot of your wood handled stuff in the dishwasher, but or soaking it for long. I never soak anything with a wood handle, just the end. Like I might soak the end, but not the wood handle part. But if it gets wet at all and you're concerned that any of the oils might have got washed off, then yes, I recommend treating it. But for the most part, a lot of your things don't need to be treated every time. I certainly don't treat this every time, especially if I use it for crushing walnuts, which is what I do. Sometimes I use this for crushing walnuts and peanuts. If I just need a little bit, and the natural oils and that just get into the wood anyway, so I don't worry about that. That masher looks painful. It can be, Tyler. This one has a longer reach. So if you're farther away, Terry should use this one. But up close and personal, this would be the better one. Because it's shorter, and this one has a little more heft. So yeah. So you better behave. You have a ceramic mortar and pestle? I didn't know they came in ceramic. The marble is really good. The marble's good. I like my marble one. It was my first one. And I really like that when I'm trying to smash up really hard things, like the what is it? The allspice, little allspice seed. That stuff is like hard. So I like using the marble one for that, though the maple's pretty hard wood. In the last chat, I asked about a built-in 50s butcher block, sorry, on my counter with stains. Any suggestions on how to clean it? As far as getting the stains off, you could try. I would do a test run on this, but that where I was showing in a short how to use the peroxide and baking soda to remove stains. I would think that would work, but I'd again just do a test run on it since you're talking wood. And on a small spot, like out of, if you can find usually your stains are going to be right out there in the open because that's the part that's getting used. But if you can find a place that's a little more inconspicuous, try that just on a little tiny spot, put the baking soda and peroxide blend on there and just let it sit for a few minutes and then clean it off and see if that works. And if it doesn't look like it's going to damage or bleach out the wood too much, because it will likely bleach the wood as well. That's why you don't want to leave it too long. So my little one here. So this one, I really like it. I was going to ask Patrick, I think I said this last week or on Wednesday, I was going to ask him to make me one about this size. He's been so busy. And I was digging around. I was down here getting something and I noticed, we still have a few cutting boards left from back when he was making them to sell. And sometimes he would end up with some odd sizes because of other ones he was working on. And this would just be something that would like, okay, I can just make a cutting board out of this. And I happen to see this in there. I'm like, that's perfect. Now I don't have to ask him to make me another cutting board because he already made me one. And then that long solid, well, it's not solid maple. I think it's still pieces put together, but it's all maple, where this is mixed walnut and maple and whatever else in there. So I like the ones where he uses the mixed woods a lot. He did a couple of boards that way. Like my chicken cutting board was made out of all those same wood. But after he made that one for me, he made some really even more cool looking ones where he made them like this. He made a chicken one and a pig one like this with that. They're shaped like a chicken, shaped like a pig. So in the outtake, I can always add the separate video I make. I can add those pictures in so you can see what they look like. In fact, I think I have a picture of the chicken one on the thumbnail of the last video. And the thumbnail for this, or for the live that I got cut off on, and for this live, that is another thing that Patrick made, but he sold that a long time ago. And it was what do you call it? It's got a special name for it. Looks like the kind you set over it's more of a wood tray. You can use it like a lap tray or something. It was so beautiful. I was like, I want one of these too, but what would I do with it? I don't think I'd ever really use it. But it's pretty cool. And he was doing the rolling pins. That's another thing too. If you got wooden rolling pins, you can, same method. So yeah, I really like having this little noodle board. Thank you, Deb. The noodle board. He made a few of those, like the big ones that cover the whole top of your range. But man, those were so expensive to ship. And that was back then. What was it like? It seemed like there was one that it would have cost $75 to ship it to New York. Just from, I shouldn't say just, because we're about as opposite. We're about as far away from New York as one can get and still be in the United States. But that's a pretty long distance. But man, it's a lot. They were a lot of money. It's like, let's try to stick with things. That's why you started going with some of the longer, skinnier ones and the shorter ones, because you could put those into the flat rate boxes. Like this long, skinny one. I'm not going to pick it up now because it's got a bunch of stuff on it. He actually made that specifically to fit in the game board box, the USPS flat rate shipping box. And then this would fit into the medium flat rate, as would the chicken and the pig ones. So he designed them to fit into those boxes. So that way, no matter where they were going in the US, you knew exactly what the shipping was going to be. And that was to play it safe. Because man, some of that stuff, it gets so heavy and so expensive to ship. How do I best straighten a warped cutting board? That would be a good question for Patrick. But I would think that if you soaked it, this is my guess, okay? I'm just going to assume, maybe somebody else can chime in. I would assume that if you soaked it in warm water for a little bit and then set it on a hard, flat surface and then took something heavy and put it on top and then let it weigh it down. I would believe that as it dries, it should flatten out with the heavy weight on top of it. And then clamping, or that too, clamping it between straight blocks to dry. When dry, it will be straight. Hey, I was pretty close. If you don't have clamps, then you can just use a big, something heavy, anything, put on top. As long as it's against a hard surface, like your countertop or something. Cutting to dehydrate while watching. Hello, who's your pioneer? Aldi had fresh pineapple. Oh, $1.89 each. Score. I was going to say steal. Well, it's a steal too. Though you didn't steal it. You scored. Yeah, I need to get some more pineapple. Dry, dehydrated pineapple. I actually am finding I like, as far as snacking on it, I love dehydrated pineapple. It is better than freeze dried for sure. I love it. They're both taste really good, but as far as snacking, the dehydrated is definitely better. The freeze dried is good for powdering up and adding to stuff. So what else here? How about butcher block countertops? Are you talking about, Deborah, are you talking about warped butcher block? I keep wanting to say butcher box. Butcher block countertops. Are you talking about warped ones? I would assume the same basic method. It might be just harder to figure out how to treating. The treating would be the same. It's the same thing. If it's wood, treat it the same way. If you have a wooden table, if the table doesn't already have some kind of, lacquer or something on it, it's just raw wood, same thing. You can do the same thing. This may seem like a strange question. How would you sanitize wood if needed? Chicken brooder was in area near kitchen and wood boards and utensils got bird dust. Ooh. Gosh, with something like that, I would be more apt to just go straight for, bleach water just to make sure. But if you're not comfortable with that, and then wash it after that. Vinegar, straight vinegar may work. Straight vinegar can kill bad bacteria and stuff. But with something like that, I tend to go, I want to make sure. So I'd be one to do a just dilute some bleach in water in a spray bottle and just spray it on there and on everything. Maybe let it sit for a few minutes and then wash with soap and water. So that's my thought. I wish I knew what magnolia smelled like. I've always wanted to have a magnolia tree. They're so pretty. I think I've seen some star magnolias around here. Years and years ago, I thought about getting a star magnolia, but never did. I wasn't sure if it would grow here, but it seems like I've seen a couple of them around here. So I think they would, but as far as the other type of magnolia like you see in the South, I don't think those would grow here. Is it larger than a tote? You may find one big enough at Ollie's. Okay, what are we talking about here? It did dry flat. Unfortunately, it was 3 pieces of wood glued together. Oh, the glue came apart. Yeah, that could be an issue too. But if you have, all you need is some wood glue. You'd probably need to sand the edges of where it was glued. Sand that down, get yourself some wood glue, but you'd have to have clamps. This is how Patrick does everything. Clamp it. I'm kind of surprised that the soaking it, and maybe it depends on how it was soaked, but it probably depends on what kind of glue they used. Wood glue should be pretty impervious to water. In fact, in martial arts, when we would practice board breaking, you're like, I have plastic rebreakable boards. They're set up where you can put them back together like a puzzle, and they have different strengths. But your standard board for breaking would be like a 1-inch board. And obviously, the drier the board, the easier it's going to break. Now, what some people would do for practice, they might practice on the boards, break them one time, and then they would glue. In fact, Patrick was doing this for me for a while. He would glue the boards back together and clamp them and let them sit for like 24 hours. And then I could try practicing on those again. And because the wood glue is so strong, it wouldn't break in the same place. It wouldn't break where it was glued back together. It would break in a new spot, just maybe above or below it. And you could usually do that a few times, because it's always going to break somewhere near the center when you're breaking boards, whether it be with a hand strike or a foot strike. But yeah. What happened to my chat just disappeared. Okay, that was weird. What did I just do? I was just trying to scroll down. See, all men really need to do is make things that want to move be still, and things that want to be still move. That's like, yeah. So that's why all you need is WD-40 and duct tape. And you got everything covered. If it doesn't stick and it should, duct tape. If it sticks and it shouldn't, WD-40. There you go. Yeah, in karate class, you never say, give me a break. Yeah. Break a leg. No. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just chat about a few other things. So, I was going to show you what I got. We just picked up our Azure Standard order today, which, by the way, I need a drink of water. Look at my water. You might go, oh, gross. Why is your water brown? Because it's basically tea, cold tea. So if you do a cold infusion and you forget about it and let it sit in the refrigerator for 3 days instead of just 24 hours, this is just mojito mint and borage. Tastes really good, though. Feels good on my sore throat. My vocal cords have just been so sore lately. So anyway, for whatever reason, the Azure Standard drop was this morning rather than this evening. So Patrick went and picked those up. And one of the things I got, I think I've tried these before, a smaller batch. They're definitely more expensive than the regular cranberries, but this doesn't have added sugar like the other ones do. It just has the apple juice to sweeten it. And oh my goodness, these are the best. They're organic, apple infused dried cranberries. Oh my goodness. They're not cheap. But that's 5 pounds right there. Really good. Of course, I got the palm shortening I get from Azure Standard, but that didn't come in today. And then I decided to try, since I got that big, massive bottle of their citrus dish soap and I really like it, I thought I'm going to go ahead and try the smallest bottle of the lavender. So it's a 16 ounce. And it smells really good. I'm always afraid to try lavender because sometimes I don't like the way some places smells wonderful. I don't like the way some places make their lavender smell. This smells like lavender essential oil would smell. And then for fun, I decided to try these organic pretzel crisps. They're good. They're really good. That works better for using as a dip, for dip or putting cheese on it or something than just like regular pretzels. I decided to try their peanut butter. This was exciting. I'll explain why. So I got one holding it wrong. I got one crunchy. Patrick tends to prefer crunchy. I tend to prefer creamy, but I'll eat either one. I recommend the crunchy because the creamy is really, it's definitely more runny. This would be perfect for putting on ice cream. It's not that runny, but I like peanut butter ice cream every now and then. This would blend well. And then the crunchy, it's got a lot of peanuts in it, but they're not bigger pieces. They're kind of smaller, but it's a little thicker as a result. But here's what's cool. I noticed is that these are also the Azure Standard canning jars. It's a better price than what I was paying for the organic peanut butter in plastic jars. These are glass and they're They're the actual candy jars. So the regular mouth pint size candy jars. So I got a couple more Azure Standard candy jars. So if you buy any of their products that's sold in a glass jar, they pack it into their own canning jars, which is so cool because you're making the most out of your money. Not that you can't reuse other jars, as you know, I do that all the time, but it's always nice when they're the standard canning jars and the Azure Standard canning jars, Azure standard canning jars. So then I know I can use them for canning as well as vacuum sealing stuff in them if I want to. So put in my very first Azure Standard order. Should be picking up this week. Cool, Tammy. Well, I hope you like everything. I mean, I'm not going to say everything's always great and wonderful, everything perfect. There's always going to be, no matter how great any company is, there's always going to be one thing that somebody gets somewhere along the way they're not going to be happy with. I had one of my orders, a pack of seeds didn't make it. Probably got lost somewhere along the way, but they refunded me for that. And what else? Did I have something else here? Well, I got other stuff too. I stupidly bought field peas as animal feed. I was looking up specifically chicken feed. I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that. And I didn't even think about the fact that it was animal feed. So it's probably more for like goats, sheep, cows, whatever. Yeah, my chickens don't like it. So I may have to crush them, or I'm like, yeah, these are big. I don't think this will work. A lot of them will eat the split peas, but these are big. They weren't too impressed with them. So I might have to, I got this big, huge bag. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do with them. But it was cheap in comparison to other stuff. So I don't know if I can just crack them, or I don't want to have to grind them all. I'd hate doing that, but I'll figure something out. Or soak them, maybe if I soak them. And I don't think I brought in anything else, but I just brought in a few of the things that came in my order today. So I'm going to try this when I wash my dishes today. So far, I'm really happy with the smell. And then I want to share with you something funny that happened the other day. So some of you know that it's usually people from the UK, and this is absolutely no offense towards any of my UK friends or anyone who lives in a place where herb is pronounced with the hard H. The H isn't silent. I have no problem with that. Absolutely not one bit of problem. That's how they pronounce it. They pronounce it herb or herb, something like that. I think they drop the R in some places, which is, I can't figure out quite how to do that. Heb? I don't know. I don't get it. But regardless, that's nothing against that, because we're all going to come from different dialects. Even here in the United States, we have different ways of pronouncing things depending on whether we're from the north or the south or the east or the west or the Midwest or whatever. And that's the way, it's that way in other countries too. So, but the history lesson about the word HERB, you look at the etymology, it comes from the Old French ERBE. That's where it came from. Now, in the modern French, they have since added the H, so it's HERBE, but they still don't pronounce the H. It's still a silent H. So, if you want to be really technical, herb is the more proper way to pronounce it, but I'm not going to beat anybody over the head with it like people like to do with me frequently. I've had people cuss at me for not pronouncing the H. Well, so there's the history lesson and where it comes from. However you want to pronounce it, I don't really care. But it's really annoying when people want to lord over. I had somebody a while back say, people who aren't English shouldn't be teaching English. In other words, because I'm not from the UK, I'm not from England, so I shouldn't be teaching English. Well, here's something for you. Herb is not an English word to begin with. So there. Anyway, so what? Yeah, Herb is short for Herbert. Exactly. See, here in the States at least, Herb is a person. But so here's the funny story I wanted to share. Is that so this guy it ended up being funnier as it went along. First, I thought the guy was just being a jerk, which he kind of was, because people get a little bit out of shape when they hear you pronounce something wrong, what they think is wrong. So he said, um, that word is pronounced with a hard H. You know why? Because there's an H in it. So I explained to him what I just explained to you guys about. I said, well, if you're from the UK, that would be proper to pronounce it with a hard H. I said, but here in America, the H is silent. Now, there are a lot of people in the States that pronounce the H, probably because they hear a lot of people from the UK or other places where the H is pronounced. No big deal. Again, I don't care. However, so I gave him the history of that, and then I told him I was actually pretty polite. Um, I said other forms, other words with a silent H are hour, air as in HEIR, okay? Honest, just here's an example of some other words that have a silent H. And some people don't pronounce the H in humble. Here we say the H in humble, but I know there's places the southeast area that pronounce it humble. Again, I don't care. I think it's cool. Everybody is unique. I know what they mean. It's like, did you understand? Did you understand what I meant? Then why are you whining? Well, here's where it gets funny. So I tell him that, and then he comes back and says, yeah, they're all hard H's. And I'm like, oh, come on. So I said, do you, are you seriously telling me you pronounce the H in honest and hour and air? So it's honest, hour, and hair. And when he replied, this made me laugh. And I realized this guy was actually pretty cool. He might have been a little annoyed at first. He said, well, he, he said, I heard that word pronounced that way, meaning herb, from a chef. And so I've been saying it that way ever since. And I just didn't want to admit defeat. And then he put a laughing face. He said, after your explanation, I didn't want to admit defeat. And he put a laughing face. And I laughed. It was great. I said, that was a good one. So I was so glad that somebody who initially might have been a little annoyed, he came in and he was actually pretty cool and he had a good sense of humor. I love that. I love it. It's always great. But, and he wouldn't know that I'm constantly dealing with people that want to correct me on how I pronounce words, especially the word herb. That's the one I get the most. But that's how I was taught growing up. And that's how it was pronounced. And somebody even said, isn't there one, wasn't it the Audrey Hepburn movie where the guy was even, because there's some people in the UK do pronounce it with a silent H. And see, my research said it is difference between, British and American. Yeah, that's exactly it. But if you want to look at the etymology, initially, My Fair Lady, that's what I was thinking. He told her, you don't pronounce the H. But if you want to go by the etymology, and you want to be absolutely 100% proper, the H should be silent. But again, if that's the way it's pronounced in your culture, in your country, in your family, who cares? We know what you mean. When somebody says herb, it might sound strange to me because I might think they're talking about a person named Herb, but I know what they mean within context, right? So just like the difference between read and read, depending on how it's being used, read or read, depending on how it's being used within context. And we don't complain about it. So for me, it depends on what mood I'm in, who I want. Oh, dear. Okay, you guys make me laugh. Oh, you're making me laugh. There was something else. I thought there was something else I was going to talk about, or a question somebody had I was going to answer. I'm looking around to see if I got anything sitting out here to remind me. I don't remember. I guess it wasn't important. Anyway, but at least I was able to, on my reboot, finish what I was saying and go cover a few things. So if I get cut off now, obviously I'm not going to try to start a backup, another stream, because I don't have another backup anyway. Oh, I'm just looking. I thought I saw something here. I was trying to, what was that thing about Google? Remember the old air freshener commercial where the woman says, "It's herbal, Herb." Oh my goodness. I think I remember that. Oh man, very vague. Wait, who said something about, I'm not seeing it now. Where'd it go? I thought I saw a comment that says something about, Google says the crowns are for a rating system. Huh. I don't really like it. I'm sure the people who get a number one like it, but it's just kind of like the whole members only thing on YouTube and anywhere else. I don't like things that make other people feel like they're less than because they're not a member or they don't have a number one next to their name. Who cares? You're all number one in my book. Everybody gets a prize. Everybody gets a crown. You're here, you get a crown. That's how I see it. If you're not here, you don't get one. Duh. I seem to get a number one very often, and I don't know why, nor do I care. There's a comedian doing a show on Silent Letter Day. On Silent Letter Day? Is that the joke itself, or did I miss something? Is it going over my head like happens so often? So YouTube is not only rating you, Heidi, but also your followers, viewers, as if we care. Cool, because being number two sucks. um, oh my goodness, you guys are cracking me up. Oh, I'm getting tears in my eyes. Too funny. Oh my goodness. At least we can laugh about it, right? Yeah. Yeah, we see if all you have to do all you have to do is just put your own crown in there. Make yourself number one. Okay, I'm sorry. You guys are just busting my guts. Okay, I do think I covered everything I was going to talk about, though. Whew. I got to breathe, man. Let me breathe. My eyes are I'm all teared up. and this time, I got tears in my eyes because I'm laughing so hard. Yeah, that's all I need to do is start laughing while I'm choking down my cold tea there. Can I beat Blessed out with 7 crowns? You can if you want. Let's see. For silent letters, there is a knock at the door. Oh, anyway. Funny stuff. Oh, too hilarious. Boy, I still feel like there was something else I was wanting to say or talk about or cover or a question that I was going to answer. What am I forgetting? I got all this stuff around me, all these wooden gadgets and the Azure Standard stuff. I'm hoping for a future crown. There we go. Not in this timeline, though. Right? Right. But here's something. So I was telling you guys about the field peas that I got, not thinking. Oh, I was thinking because you know how you do a search, like always seems to happen with me. Put in a search. Okay, chicken feed, and it showed up in the chicken feed. I'm like, oh, there's a good idea. There's something new I can add because I'm trying to work on maybe just sort of slowly getting away from the actual feed and creating my own feed, not just scratch. But they're not going to eat those things. They're too, I think it's because they're too big and they're just, I don't know if, I just wonder if anybody has any suggestions they think would be the easiest way. I'm thinking maybe just soaking them, which I really don't want to have to do, but I actually did the other day because I have a bunch of black beans and I find I just don't really like using black beans that much because they stain everything. I mean, whatever you're cooking it in. Yeah, I know that if you soak them and rinse them, that helps with that, but I just tend to forget. And I thought, I should feed these to the chickens. So obviously, I soaked and cooked them a little bit so they'd be soft enough, and they eat them. And I'm thinking maybe I'll just do the same thing with these field peas, but I wonder if anyone has any other ideas or suggestions of an easy way that I can get my chickens to eat those and add them to their feed. Because, yeah, I got a 50-pound bag. That was dumb. I opened up the bag. I'm like, wow, these are big. I don't know if my chickens will eat these. So I threw some out there and they're like picking them up and dropping them. They're like, you got anything better? Sorry. I hope the droppings won't be weird. The droppings from the chickens. Is that what you mean? I thought about that too, the sprouting them. This might be crazy, but could you can beans in the sun oven? I don't know if they'd get hot enough. Yeah, I personally don't think so. Because usually when you're canning a low acid food like that, it's got to be in water, or pressure canned, that is, or water bath. So I don't know. I would say not. I don't think it would get quite hot enough anyway. I dropped my gross. So yeah, I don't know. I might just try doing like I did with the beans, with the black beans, and just kind of maybe soak them, cook them, or whatever, and then see if I can get them to. It was funny. Chicken. That would be some weird droppings there. Yep. Oh my goodness, I'm seeing a chicken walking around with a big gum bubble coming out its backside. And maybe the front side too. Blowing bubbles out both ends. Just thinking outside the box. Oh my goodness. This is hilarious. Oh, good one. That was a good one. So anyway, yeah, I think I'll try that with those. And I'm also trying to find a way to do this so it's not quite so expensive too. Because the one thing I like about Azure Standard is they sell like their wheat. I was going to get barley again, the chicken barley, but it was out. It was before they didn't have it back in before the shipment sent. But just mixing different grains. So what they mean by the chicken, what's the difference between chicken and the human, is chicken's not really sorted. It might still have chaff in it and all that. It might have pieces of other types of grains and whatnot in there. And so, yeah, I mean, the chickens don't care. You might have a few lentils thrown in there. And so that is like half the price of getting, and it's still organic and non-GMO, but it's half the price of buying the stuff that's been sorted and doesn't have the chaff and whatnot in it. Though I do, like I said before, I do know some people who got like the hard red wheat and had a lot of debris in it, which I kind of surprised me because I never get that in my barley and my hard white wheat grains or any other things that are for human consumption. I'd only see it in the stuff I get for the chickens, and even that stuff has always looked pretty clean. So Yeah, so that's kind of my goal, is trying to work on a way to kind of develop my own where they're getting plenty of protein. Because I kind of, even though I'm for the most part happy with that one feed I've been getting that's non-GMO and corn and soy free, it seems like my chickens don't lay as well on it, and I always have some chicken that's not laying good at all. The rest might still lay every day, but there's always some chickens that aren't laying as good, and I don't know if it's that feed, because it's about the same time I started getting it that I've had a couple chickens sort of going off and on, or it could be the chickens themselves. So, but I do wonder if maybe, I mean, it's supposed to be layer feed, so it's supposed to have that at least 16% protein, but I just wonder if they need more protein. I'm just not sure. So I'm kind of trying to develop something on my own and see. Now I know people have talked about soaking and sprouting, and I'm like, man, that just sounds like a lot of extra work. It's the what's it called? It's here in Washington State. I Like I said, for the most part, I'm happy with it, and most of my hens do just fine on it. But I've had and I don't know if it's the feed. Um, but Canucksu, I think it's called. Starts with a K, and it's all made here in Washington State. You know, the grains come from Washington State, so it's all sourced from Washington State. The company's in Washington State and family owned, and I love that about it. But again, I don't know that it's actually the feed. But either way, the only way we can get the feed is we have to drive to Squim to get it, which is 75 miles. Well, that's fine. You know, if we're going in there a couple times a year, we'll just buy a whole bunch of feed. We'll hit the Costco, but I hate being dependent on having to go to town to get stuff when I can order stuff in from Azure Standard. And the scratch and peck feed, though it's really a great feed, it's far more expensive. So that's why I'm working on trying to develop something where, you know, the chickens, they love the black oil sunflower seeds, and those aren't very expensive. And so I have created my own scratch, and it's got oats and the black oil sunflower seeds, the wheat grains, and some other. Sometimes I'll throw in some split peas, especially when they're laying. That seems to work really good for them. They're more up to eat them when they're laying than when they're not laying. So I might just go back to my idea of doing the split peas and figure out what to do with these other peas here. So I harvest my cucumber leaves, and mine are at least 6 feet. Going over the arch, I do select sparingly. So I'm assuming you harvest them to eat them, but I wonder, do you do anything specific? Because I know, like, I think the leaves off of all of those kind of plants are edible. Usually, what I end up doing is just breaking them off, like I do with the tomatoes. But by then, they're not really healthy looking leaves, and so I just break all the unhealthy looking ones and the lower ones off. So, but you could, I would assume you just dehydrate them up and throw them in your greens blend. But I wondered if there's anything else specific you do with cucumber leaves. My girls took a break for a week or so. I added some rooster booster to their water for a couple of days, and they kicked back into high gear. Rooster booster, what is that? Is that the actual name of it, or is that just, is it, are you talking about something specific? Yeah, it's just, man, that's the thing. Like I said, the scratch and peck is great feed, but especially when you got a lot of young cockerels and they eat, well, cockerels mean they're young. They go through so much feed. They're just like teenage boys. And they are basically teenage boys. They're at that point where they're growing fast. Some of them are trying to start crowing right now, and they just go through so much feed. It's just, oh, and you know, I have to keep reminding myself that, okay, they're going to become, all this food I'm giving them is helping them get bigger so they can become food for us. I am giving one of them away because I promised a rooster to a lady in our fellowship. And so I'm watching them closely to see which one I think is going to be the prettiest and also the most friendly out of them. They're all still pretty skittish right now, so it's hard to tell for certain. But I mean, they're all part Buff Orpington, and Antonio. He's a nice rooster. He's skittish, but he's to the point now where when I go, if yeah, like he still doesn't like me to pet him if he's just out and about. He'll still run from me if I try to pet him. But if he's on the roost and he's settled in for the night, he's getting where now he seems to kind of enjoy it. I'll go in there and I'll stroke his wattles and his comb and I'll pet his pretty feathers and he seems to like it. He puts up with it if nothing else, but he's never mean. So he's just a really good rooster. I'm so happy to have him. So my guess is they'll probably all be pretty good roosters, whichever one I give her. But still, I figure I'll just pay close attention, and if someone seems nicer and prettier, because there's one that looks like he's probably going to look just like his dad. And Antonio, I think, is absolutely gorgeous. What do you do with all the eggshells? I don't know if you're asking me that. I use eggshells. That tends to go back into the chicken scratch, or I use it for myself as a mineral supplement. Those are the two main ways I use eggshells. I don't really use them in the garden because I feel like my chickens and me need them more than my garden does. One thing I found though is that diatomaceous earth, I've kind of stopped doing the eggshells for a while. I've switched to diatomaceous earth. I need to double check because I can't remember, but it should be pretty high in those same minerals. The magnesium, considering it's fossilized plankton, it should be pretty high in calcium, magnesium, and some of the other similar types of minerals that I need. So I'm going to double check that. And but I'm finding that just doing the diatomaceous earth, uh, I'm not seeing my, and not doing the eggshell supplement, my teeth are still looking good. When I stop doing any of that, then my teeth will start to turn gray, and I know I'm not getting enough minerals. So I might be getting enough from the diatomaceous earth, but diatomaceous earth is also a good option because it will help feed the soil as well as keep certain pests, bugs, insects. Some people say it works for slugs. Not here. It will help kill other types of insects that will eat, but I don't use it for that around here because it just too quickly gets washed into the soil, which is fine for the minerals. But anyway, so I do like giving the eggshells back to the chickens. Let's see. I'm sorry. Our 16 new buffs supposed to be hens, but we ended up with a rooster and the chicks. Yeah. I can imagine that would happen. In fact, when I got my Buff Orpingtons, my very first chickens, I assumed that would happen. I was only going to get 6 chicks. We decided on 6, and I said, nope, let's get one more, just in case one's a rooster. They all ended up being hens, and I'm glad I got 7. So, Dusty, and here. She always comes in under her husband's account. Holy cow, I've been excommunicated. You've been excommunicated? From here? I saw your comment, but I didn't know what it meant. I had to go back to it. Wood ash. Yep, wood ash is good too. One thing I found though with wood ash, because I tend to put it in my gardens a lot, usually around perennials. I will no longer be, I'm going to be a lot more careful about how I use it because I'm suspicious it was the wood ash that killed my oregano. I might have had it on there too thick. And wood ash can kind of, when it rains, it kind of turn to concrete. And I think what it did is it basically suffocated my my oregano, but it's coming back slowly, but it is coming back, thankfully. So you had trouble finding me today. Well, first, Dusty, as tends to happen quite often, my first stream got cut off. But at least I got most of my topic out, but I still wasn't quite done. So I had to start a backup stream. My backup. But really, I should be getting off here anyway. I've got, as usual, just like the rest of you, chores I gotta go do. And I think I am going to try soaking it. Oh, by the way, I do have a chicken in the solar oven, even though it's kind of half sunny, half cloudy. And I had that video come out on the other channel about the tips. It was from a live show, obviously, on using a solar oven. But I think I said it in that. I didn't watch it this morning, and it was 6 weeks ago. So, that I initially shot that. But I believe I said that if I start something in the solar oven, just go ahead and put it in early in the day, even if I'm unsure if it's going to be clear or not. When you live here, you're never sure. It can be completely as clear of a sky as you've ever seen. And in 5 minutes, all of a sudden, it's solid clouds. You never know. But I just put stuff in the solar oven early in the day. And if it gets closer to dinner time, it's like maybe an hour or two before dinner time, I go and check and see if it's cooked, if the weather's kind of sketchy. And if it's not, then I just stick it in the toaster oven and let it finish cooking in there. No big deal. If nothing else, at least I'll cut some of the electric cooking time off of it. But my toaster oven is plugged into solar power anyway. So I'm still using solar. The only difference is now I'm putting a little more wear and tear on my toaster oven. So that's something else to think too, is even if you have solar power to run your electric things, every time you run something, you're putting wear and tear on it. So if you can do something like in a solar oven that doesn't have any moving parts, you're not really getting that same wear and tear. Anyway, so a double bumblebee sting. Oh, double bumblebee sting. I've never been stung by a bumblebee. I always wondered if they actually did sting. They're like flying teddy bears. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Didn't know that. So, what was I going to say? Oh, I was talking about the solar oven chicken. So yeah, you can always just, somebody made a comment under there about, making sure your oven's hot enough. Yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's a homemade one or not. Your weather's going to have a lot of say and how much sun you're getting on if it's going to get hot enough anyway. So I used to use mine came with a little thermometer, and I never use it because I just put the stuff in early. And again, if it's not done by the end of the day, I can put it in the toaster oven or the big oven. But usually it would be, if it fits in my solar oven, it's going to fit in my toaster oven. So, but anyway, yeah, plantain has been, for me, just chew up some plantain leaves and stick them on there. When I've been stung by yellow jackets a couple times, just stick it on there. Immediate relief. And it just you just feel it going. It's like it's hurting more and more and more. And you chew up that leaf, put it on there, and then the pain goes backwards within 2 minutes. It's gone. So if you haven't tried that yet, if what you're doing is working, then cool. But if it's not working and you have plantain growing, try that. At least for me, I know that's been just absolutely, it's like a miracle how well it works. Because in both cases where I got stung by a wasp or a yellow jacket, it didn't even leave a mark, and it was really starting to hurt. I was like, what happened? And you know how it is, first you feel something, then it starts to get more and more painful. But as soon as I put up that masticated plantain on there, it just went right back to, and then you wipe it off. Not even a mark, no swelling, nothing. It's amazing to me. And then there was a third time I did that. something bit me or stung me. I never saw what it was, so I don't know what it was. That one took a little bit longer, but the plan, it might have been some other kind of bite of something. Something got me. And it was I say it was really starting to hurt and swell and turn red. And I put the plantain on there. I just never saw what it was. It was really strange. And well, yeah, and then bentonite clay would probably be also really good for drawing out toxins, the poisons of the whatever stung you. Bentonite clay too. Yeah, there we go. Stung on same leg as hip replacement. Ugh. Yikes. Yikes. So, and I thought Jace was going to be in here today, and I was going to cover up the foosball table so he wouldn't make so much noise and just let him play with the other stuff. But Patrick went down to the property, so he just took Jace with him. Jace loves hanging out with Papa. It's so cute. Both the grandbabies, all the grandbabies do. They love whatever Papa's doing, they want to go too. So yesterday, Jace ended up spending, Justin only had to work part of days. So he came and picked up Jace early, but I had Jackson and Rowan, and Patrick needed to go down to the property. So he took Jackson with him. And Jackson loves hanging out with Papa down there. Well, Rowan was mad because she didn't get to go. That's okay. She ended up having a good time just hanging out with the grandma. We sat out. We spent a lot of time out on the deck. I was pruning up my grapevines. That's one thing about where my grapevines grow. I have to keep them pruned back and down so they don't grab onto the power line that goes across there. And because they will if I don't keep checking them. Or they just overtake the whole deck. So I have to keep pruning back. And I got to do it like at least once or twice a week. That's how fast they grow this time of year. And she was so sweet. She kept picking up. She's just so little bitty, but she saw where grandma was dumping the grapevines when I cut them off. And then at one point I got up there, I was cutting stuff, and I went to throw what I was cutting into the pile I started because I had to keep moving the step ladder. I'm like, where's my little pile? Oh, maybe I already dumped it. And then I realized she was the one that was picking it up and dumping it for me. Little tiny thing. I'm like, what a good girl. I love that. I love that my grandbabies, all three of them, love to help. So we try to, really encourage that, that helping, that working, being a part of stuff like that as much as we can. So, me too, Deb. I'm always getting bruises on my legs. On my hips because I'm always bumping into something. Always. I've always been that way. I've been a dancer all my life. That doesn't mean just in my day-to-day stuff, I'm not a klutz. You can be a dancer and you can move with total, no klutziness whatsoever when you're dancing. But if you're just like walking from here to here and trying to do 50,000 things, me anyway, I'm always bumping into stuff. It's bad. Monkey see, monkey do. If they see you work, they'll work. Right. If they see you procrastinate, yep. So we got, boy, you think about, I'm sorry, I keep saying I got to go, but the work ethic thing of the young. When I say the young, I'm talking teenagers through people in their 30s. So my boys were old enough to start working out, getting hired at jobs, real jobs. They're not their other jobs. Doing yard work for people weren't real jobs, but you know what I mean. Especially my youngest son, the kind of jobs that he's done, constantly having to deal with coworkers that have no work ethic whatsoever. Constant turnover because they're so lazy. They either get fired or they quit because it's just too much work having to work. And so Justin's constantly picking up the slack all the time. It seems like every time they hire someone, every now and then they'll get someone else as a good worker, but most of the time they get somebody in there that just has no desire to work. It's like Justin's even asked him, why are you here? Why are you here if you don't want to work? And there was one guy who was like, oh man, I need money. He's constantly wanting to borrow money because it's like, I got a wife or how many kids he has. And, maybe he only has a few. I have no idea. But he has a wife and kids and, oh, I'm so broke. And Justin's like, well, then maybe you should work because he's always finding excuses not to work. Always calling in sick. Now there's a guy that he just always has somebody. You can't believe this is true. It's like every week somebody in his family is dying, so he can't come to work. Like, and I'm not joking when I say that. Oh, I just lost this relative and that relative and that. Like every week, it's somebody dying. There's not pretty soon he's going to run out of family to make that excuse for. Then what's he going to do? What kind of excuse is he going to use then? It's like, it's just, to me, it shouldn't be surprising, but it still sometimes blows me away. And these people keep hiring people like that because they're like, we have to have workers of some kind. We really want good workers, but they got to hire whoever's willing to apply for the job and they just keep going through them because it's hard work. And people realize it's actual work, and so they don't want to do it, and so they just don't show up to work. A lot of people don't even bother to show up or call in and give an excuse. They just don't show up. I used to see this in the last several years of teaching dance. I'd see the same thing. It was one of the reasons why I said, you know what, I'm kind of done, because when I first started teaching, I could rely on my students being there. Yeah, there would be somebody that might be sick on a rare occasion, but it was rare. But as the years went by, the last several years just got really bad. It's like you just never knew. They might decide they don't want to be in the show at the last minute and not come, and nobody bothers to say anything to you. So it's not just the kids, it's definitely coming from the parents. The example the parents are setting, as well as what the parents are willing to allow their child to get away with. So instead of teaching them, okay, you've decided this, this sport, this dance, this whatever, this activity isn't for you, but right now you've made a commitment to see this through. So you need to finish it out, then you can quit. That I would totally understand. Or if it's right at the beginning of the year, they try a couple classes, decide it's not for them. That I can understand. Though really you should give it more than a couple classes to find out for sure. But when it gets down to the last minute and you're depending on them to be in the show, you've choreographed all these dances for that child, every student, to have a specific place in the show. And when they don't bother to show up, and nobody tells you anything, it is extremely frustrating. So I would say I can at least relate a little bit to how a lot of these employers must feel when they have workers that are this way. The same thing happens down here at the store. It's pretty sad, and a lot of backstabbing going on. People trying to get somebody else fired because they want their hours, because they don't like working the low man on the totem pole hours. Well, that's where everybody starts. That's where everybody starts. Get over it. You keep working, you keep pushing ahead, you'll be able to get the better hours but now some of them get away with it because they make up lies about other people. And it's pretty sad. Anyway, I am venting. I apologize. I have no patience for that kind of attitude. I just don't. That is definitely one of my weak points, is my lack of patience for rudeness and for utter laziness. I mean, we're all going to have days and times where it's okay to be a little bit lazy, or it's just like, you know what, I'm exhausted. But if you have no desire to push ahead and do anything to better yourself or your situation, don't complain to other people and feel everybody owes you something because you're not willing to put in the effort. So anyway, I've even had parents get mad at me because their child didn't go on point, which is, you work, that's something you have to work towards. I'm not just going to put, oh, you're in dance now. Let's go ahead and put you on point. No, 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 no. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of like in martial arts. You start out as a white belt. You earn your way through the colors to show your rank because you've worked to get to each level that you're at. But then you get people that get mad because I never had this with martial arts, but I had this with dance. Sometimes parents would get mad because their child didn't have the main starring role or whatever. Well, the only people that would get those roles were people who had been in dance for a while and proved that they could work hard. It was hardly ever based on how good of a dancer they really were. It was based on their work ethic. Those are the ones I would choose. They might not always be the best dancer, the most coordinated, the most beautiful in the way they moved, but they were the ones that worked hard. Those were the ones that got the special roles. Just the way it was. I mean, everyone doesn't get a trophy or a crown. Nope. Sorry, Tammy. You're just always going to be number 2. You still got a crown, though. Hey. Even though I was joking around about her, that kind of fits in what I was joking around about the crowns earlier. It's like, if you're in here, y'all get a crown. It's equal opportunity in here for a crown, whether it's number 1, 2, or 3. We'll just say they're all number 1. You're all number 1 in my book. Oh. It's funny we came back to that. It just came full circle, right back around again. My first job was landscaping for a dentist office. He'd let get completely overgrown. I worked 8 hours a day for $20. Wow. But you know what? That's something. That's kind of like I finally sat down and figured out how much money I'm making, not per hour on YouTube. I'm like, wow, that's really sad. That's like what is it, like 1/3 of minimum? No, it's like a quarter of minimum wage. It's pretty sad. Heidi, did you see after you said that YouTube gave me a number 2? Yeah, well, you already had a number 2. That's why I said it. That's what I saw. And sometimes number 3. Oh, funny. It's so silly. I still don't even understand it. Yeah, $20 from a dentist. I'm assuming you were pretty young. 8 hours, they're listening. Hard work is always rewarded, and everyone gets rewarded whether they work or not. Washington is Democrat state. Yes, it is. It is. But at any rate, hey, at least I'm still earning something. Yeah. But that's why it's like I don't have a lot of patience for people this is another thing I don't have a lot of patience for. People who want to whine and complain because you don't do enough the way they want you to do things. And it's like, okay, you want all this free stuff from me. Or you want me to, like when I was selling the skirts, there were some people that I was probably only making $2 an hour. I think I figured I was making $2 an hour for the time I put into making the skirts for what I was charging, and people would complain about the price. It's like, okay, well, are you willing to work for $2 an hour? You think that you should pay me less? Do you realize that if you paid just for the material alone, you'd still be, if I didn't charge you for my time, you'd still be paying a lot more than you would for some cheap Chinese made skirt in the Walmart? But yeah, and yeah, people get bent out of shape out of it. It's like, well, you either want something that's handmade or you don't. Handmade in the United States, or you don't. If you want to pay less, that's fine. I get it. But don't get mad at me for trying to charge at least a little bit to make it worth the time put into that. If you could even call $2 an hour worth it in this modern day. What's $2 going to get me? Anyway, so I really should get off here because I just went on how many different rants did I go on today? Our milk is goat made and hand squeezed. Tyler, here's a question. I keep saying I'm going to go. Have you figured out though what would be the cost? I'm saying it's worth it either way. But I'm curious, like, what is the cost per gallon of milk or pint of milk or quart of milk when you add up all of your work, the cost of the goat in the first place, the feed and the care. It's like eggs. I was watching some short a while back. It made me laugh. And this lady showing her, here's my chicken coop, here's my chickens, and da 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 da. And this cost me that much. So yeah, that's why it cost me like $68 a dozen for eggs. Obviously, she was exaggerating, but yeah, with chickens, it's like I want to, especially with all these young roosters, I want to be able to sell enough eggs every week to pay for the cost that I'm feeding them, if nothing else, because this is most certainly not free eggs. But why is it worth it? Well, because I have eggs when I need them. Just recently, they were out of eggs at the store. Nobody had eggs. I had my own eggs. I was fine. I know what's going into those eggs. I know what I'm feeding my chickens. I know how healthy my chickens are. I know how they're being treated. So even if it does cost me money to have those eggs, it definitely costs me some time and effort. It's still worth it because they're good eggs and I know what went into them. So I have 7 children, so my 26 to 40 was different than most people's. Heidi, please, one more rant before you go. Oh, I'm sure I can find something. Though I really should get going. Let's see. What does Tyler say? Let's see. Monthly feed, $150 a month. Hay, $180 a month. Don't even ask about meds, materials, and extras. And for that, you get a gallon a day, though. A gallon a day, and all the things you can do with that goat milk. It's not just the milk, it's the cheese and the butter. Well, of course, I know different goats, like different types of sheep and cows can make have a different amount of fat in them. So I'm assuming you can do the butter and the cream and of course, yogurt, milkshakes. Oh, by the way, that was one of the other things I decided to try from Azure Standard were their frozen diced peaches. They're diced really small. So they're going to be good. To me, it's not, I know I wouldn't want to can those, but I decided to try them because I looked at the price. I'm like, wow, for organic, they're already peeled and no pits. That's about the same price as I would pay per pound for organic peaches that haven't been peeled and cut and pitted. So I might as well just try them. Looking at them, I'm like, I think these would be good for making creamsicles like the strawberry creamsicles. All I gotta do is thaw them out a little bit, throw some peaches in there, put in some half and half or whole cream, heavy cream, and a little honey. Yum yum. I'm gonna do those soon. I'm also gonna make some cantaloupe ones again here soon because I got cantaloupe coming in from Misfits Market. Organic, of course. So yeah, let me see. Cheese, yogurt, butter. Okay, cool. Goat milk is about 6% milk fat. Very cool. Well, like I said, I know there's like some goats have more fat in their milk than others. I think some of it depends, and sheep as well. I think some of it depends on the breed. Terry says the goats are way cheaper than a psychiatrist and better at it. I made butter out of heavy cream. Came out great. Yep. That's all you need. All you got to do is, if you don't have a churner, just stick your heavy cream in a jar and shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Sonora. La Mancha's had almost half cream. Ooh. Ooh. Banana peach bread. I'm thinking maybe, I could use them to make like a peach syrup. I like peach syrup sometimes for ice cream. Or peach rhubarb is really good. Yep, shake your butter. Okay. So, shake, 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 shake your butter. Shake your butter. That's a better one. That's definitely better. It's better because it's butter instead of booty. uh okay, for reals, people. You just keep stringing me back in there, don't you? Butter. All right, you guys. It was a fun time. I really, really appreciated the good hard laugh you guys gave me. It was hilarious. Fun stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the topics today. Maybe got a few pointers from me and from each other as well. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. And if you celebrate the 4th of July, I hope you have a happy 4th of July. So thanks for coming in, guys. Take care and God bless. Bye.